This video is about information starvation, and this is what happens in the end of empires when everything's falling apart. It's because like the Soviet Union or Rome or Hitler's Nazi Germany, the state has become so entrenched in the news gathering and news distribution, and also in the in maintaining information about the outside of the empire, or even scientific discoveries, that the public in the same country, like in United States or in Nazi Germany, or other countries similar like Soviet Union, they have very foggy notion of what is actually taking place or what has taken place, and they are stuck with like fringe philosophers like Hassan, or people who just don't belong to the system and the stuff they say. I put out the stuff. It's like I see many organizations, even politicians, just pounce on it, because they are themselves extremely starved uh, for any kind of information, or what might happen. I mean, I think that the public is stuck with very outdated information, or has to rely on psychics or fringe kind of activists to kind of figure out, hey, what is going on. I was watching these videos about moon anomaly, and there was a conference, and they were showing these anomalies on the moon, and these people, we are like, this this stuff happened like 40, 50 years ago, but the US government has been so successful in hiding these discoveries, scientific or otherwise, or archaeological discoveries from the past, that uh, these guys, they were stuck with watching or analyzing old black and white pictures with very low resolution, and some were processing these to put in some colors, trying to figure out what is going on. It just shows the tremendous lack of information, or the obstacle that the U.S. government poses to scientists or intellectuals, but by coming in and totally crushing and hiding any kind of discovery or ideas that doesn't follow in their narratives. I think that when this whole bunch of banana tree falls apart, I don't know, we're gonna find a lot of truth bombs, stuff that is incredible, but that uh, one of the reasons that I get to peek at some of this information is because I'm Iranian. I grew up in Iran, and I just don't trust whatever that's being said. I lived through that era when the Shah's government was in complete power, and they they present their own story, and that whole thing fell apart, and then the Soviet Union fell apart. uh, so I think this one is also going to fall apart, but it's sad that it has managed to obstruct what is really on the scientific terms or intellectual or artistic terms, humanity's heritage, whether this heritage is on the moon, or is archaeological sites that megalithic, or whatever they could be. The government comes in and buys those artifacts, hides them in some warehouse somewhere, and the public never gets to analyze or make their own judgment. I find the stuff that this government does extremely repugnant. Uh, I I was in Iran after the revolution when the government had fallen. I went back to Tehran for a few months. I was talking to my uncle. He was telling me he had a house in Shemiran, which is like a northern part of Tehran, where the Shah had his palace over there too, and it's kind of like a hilly or a mountainous region, and he had a house, and he was telling me, Hassan, there is like secret prisons that the Shah had built with the help of United States, that they were torturing people, and you could hear them at night. They were hollering, and I was talking many years later to another friend of mine, is Afghani guy, and he's one of the relative of late Afghanistan Shah, Shah Zahir Shah, I think. He was telling me that the United States has constructed secret prisons that they keep, that even the Afghanistan government doesn't know. That they grab Afghanis and Pakistanis and just throw them in there in a foreign country itself. For example, Afghanistan is a Muslim country, and a lot of people even speak Farsi. They're almost like Iranian. Well, they speak Pashto too, but it uses their lands and their airspace to launch drones into Iran or into Central Asia or into Pakistan or kill Pakistanis. It's like, I think sometimes Americans they hear about this stuff, and a lot of times they don't hear nothing about it. Then I told you about this. We don't know what kind of space program they have, what they have found out. You're stuck with people like me who are like, unemployed philosopher can talk about some of this stuff, telling you, hey, it's possible to make these devices, or the equations kind of point in that direction, but really I think we are like 50 years, 60 years behind the curve after World War II in terms of knowing these scientific or technological breakthroughs, or even know what bits and pieces of the government are doing. I think the US government itself has split into factions. One of them is like Pentagon, and the other one is like the CIA. I don't know. They call themselves different names. One is like a Langley group, and these two factions. One of them is more like anti-establishment and looks out for US's or Americans, just the real national interest, and the other one is like the one that supports ISIS and is all in all these foreign countries, and even their own operatives, they don't know what the general idea is or what will happen, or and they have somebody who's totally crazy in the White House. They are very fucked up, and they constantly lie and hide information. Uh, I heard that they don't like RT because RT is tell the American people some of the truth, and they find it very offensive, and they try to intimidate their employees or hire them and make them lie for them. Uh, when I was working, I was doing acting in a film. All the people, it was a war movie, and all the people were ex-Marines. They were all gay, and they the films they made, they were using me. And it was very much like a hate video, and they went on, made many more of the same. Nobody knows who paid these guys. How come they have all this cash? I see other filmmakers, they kind of struggle. They have some devices and they try to save money. They don't have all these resources, and the movies they make is not all hate videos about Muslims. The whole thing is stinks very bad. And the other thing I see that the the U.S. government constantly goes out, tries to put anybody that they perceive as troublesome on their own payroll, like employ them, and then usually they can tell their employees to shut up or do this or say things that are completely false or lie. Other things I notice is that many people that criticize the U.S. government are their own long-term employees or operatives. They come on in RT or in Press TV, which are foreign news, and they criticize the government. Many of the outspoken opponents of Wall Street, or they were formerly they were members of the Congress, or they were they worked for administrations like Reagan, and this whole government is totally stinks. It knows nothing about making friends around the world or doing business. The whole thing is totally geared in secrecy, in militarism, in procuring weapons and distributing them around the world, financing terrorist organizations. It's very sad, and I think that the very first thing that the American people should demand is to get access to these files or these stuff that have been locked up for many decades. I think that there should be more organizations like WikiLeaks, just leak out all these stuff about the space programs that have been locked away, hacked through their system. These informations should be free. It belongs to the public. It belongs to other scientists that are speculating or working on these ideas. It should not be locked up. And these idiots, they are destroying many countries, stealing their central bank gold, and then selling them off cheap to maintain the value of the dollar. Uh, Anyhow, these are some of the stuff that I see. I believe that information should be free, should be unhindered. Secrecy is evil, and when organization or individual have secrets, that means they have done something bad and they want to hide it. They are afraid of consequences. Real democracy, you don't need secrets, because democratic processes resolve their own problems. Also, democratic country don't need a huge military, and they have more friends in the world. Uh, I also find it very repugnant when somebody tries to hire me, use me as a spokesman for these idiotic ways of doing things, even though they know I totally oppose it. Thank you for being in my videos. My ideas are original and fresh, and you will get insights when you take the blinders off. Thank you. Please subscribe.